I'm so glad to be with all y'all this morning. So I have the pleasure of welcoming Alan Smith, who all of y'all I'm sure know, but he has been a partner with Caine and everything we do in our community. And we are so thrilled to be partnering with them with Vision 2.0, which he's here to tell us about the plan for One Spartanburg moving forward. So with that, welcome, Alan.
Thank you. Thank you. That was my kind of introduction right there.
Pretty sweet.
I like that. So this morning, I now have can give as of Monday or yesterday, and I have a 2.5-year-old as well. So we're all trying to get ready. They want to play. Eloise, I said, I cannot play. I'm sorry. I got to get dressed. I got to get ready for work. Can't play today. I'll play when I get home tonight, maybe. And she said, well, where are you going to eat this morning? So here we are. I mean, they're smart. They know. That's Eloise. Mary Barrett, the 2.5-year-old, this weekend, we were walking in the neighborhood and we stopped at the street, and they know the rule. You know, when you cross the street, you have to hold a hand. That's the rule. You have to hold a hand. Well, she said at the corner, I'm not a baby. She starts, y'all, if you're parents, you've seen the sit-ins they do. They just sit down. And she said, I'm not holding hands. I said, you're holding hands. She locked both of her hands, walked across. She held onto a hand. So it's about perspective, right? And so today I hope I can perspective around what has happened in Spartanburg, what is happening in Spartanburg, and what will happen in Spartanburg. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that this is a community going back all the way to 2016. We said we're going to be data-driven about where we want to go, and we're going to build a comprehensive economic development and community development plan. We did that. We launched it in 2017. Here we are. And we've launched another 5-year to take us through 2026. Before I jump right into that, I do always like to take a moment, a little bit about who we are as an organization, because we're very unique. There's not an organization like ours in North or South Carolina. As far as we can tell, there's only about 14 or 15 nationwide. So what we did in September of 2020 was we took the countywide Chamber of Commerce, we took the countywide Economic Development Organization, and we took the countywide Tourism Development Organization and put them all under the same roof and named it One Spartanburg, Inc. So in most communities, like Greenville, approximate to us, you might be familiar with some of the organizations I'm about to mention, but in the Greenville Chamber, separate organization, separate mission, separate budget, separate overhead. Greenville Area Development Corps is responsible for countywide economic development. Another building, another budget, more overhead, another mission. Visit Greenville over here, another building, another budget, more overhead, and a separate mission. What we've done is taken all three, we've put them together. So I always like to create a little baseline understanding as to who we are and what we do and how we do it. And by the way, that model allows us to operate at half the average in overhead for industries similar to ours. Not only that, and you'll see this, you know, the work of economic development 25 years ago used to be, we're going to find flat land for you, flat land, we're going to cut your utilities, we're going to cut your taxes, we'll show you how close you are to the interstate, and we're going to close the deal. It's not like that today. It's all about people. Companies today where the qualified and talented people are. And so I'll give you an example. 3 months ago, we had a multifamily developer from Indianapolis in our building. Very successful, a high quality product. He walked in the door, he said, I want to know about your trail system. I want to know about restaurant density in downtown Spartanburg. Guess what? Those are the same amenities that a tourist is looking for. And so that's why, one of the many reasons why we felt it made sense to put the business development, economic development, tourism development organizations all together. So I've talked 5 minutes and turned to my first slide yet, but we'll go through this as quickly as we can and encourage you as we go, just stop and ask questions. If you're like me, if you have to wait to the end, you forget what your question was by the time you get to the end. I mentioned 2016, we started the process of building a 5-year strategy. In 2017, I'm going to go through what the past 5 years have looked like in Spartanburg County as we intentionally implemented the recommendations. And make no mistake, when I say we, I don't mean one Spartanburg. I mean we and our private sector partners, the city, the county, all our municipalities. A differentiator we have in Spartanburg is we collaborate. And we're intentional about that. 5 years of progress. The plan was arranged in 4 categories: talent, place, image, and economy. You can't see it, that little black box is covering it up. But over here on the right, you'll see 3.1, 3.1. So those are actual recommendations in the plan. So again, we've been and set it on a shelf. So these recommendations are from the plan. So one of the recommendations was we needed economic development approach. We had, as a region, 30, 40 years ago, had all our eggs in one basket. That basket. Textiles, right. And what happened? When textiles left, so did our economy. And so we're trying not to make that same mistake again. For us to be more involved in urban economic development, downtown economic development. Prior to this plan, we were focused on manufacturing, distribution, logistics, all out in the county. In 2019, we took a big step forward, and we became an official provider for economic development for the city of Spartanburg. The city. These are some of those results. This is big. This was one of the projects that we brought to when we took over economic development in partnership with the city of Spartanburg. What you're looking at is East Main Street. And what you're looking at is a product of Pierce Group out of Greenville. This is going to be, this number is not right anymore. With cost escalations, it's probably going to be a $90 million project on East Main Street. 8 parcels purchased to bring this together. So it's hard for one parcel in downtown just because it's linear building, it's 20,000. It was literally a miracle that people were retiring, they were selling businesses all at the same time. So Mark Peters and his group were able to assemble 8 parcels. This tower will be 7 stories, this tower 7, this one 11, 175 apartments. He will have those for sale. He told us this last week. The shell square foot, just the shell for the 6 condos. The bottom floors will be restaurant sides. They're in 2 SKUs as far as that's concerned, but I still think they're going to try. The other thing that's great about this project is he's going to put alleyways in. So Main, and you'll also have a lot of your restaurant retail user on the bottom floors and on East Main for you. So right up here, maybe where the participants thing is. Yeah, just right there. That's Denny's, okay? Across from Denny's is First Baptist of Spartanburg. First Baptist of Spartanburg is about to do a $34 million modernization of their campus. So you have that going on, that'll get started. Denny's is here, this is here. This is going to end up being about a $90 million project. This right here is the start of the freight yard. On the other side of the freight yard, Andrew Babb and John Balknight are doing about a $25 million project. Behind their project, on the corner of Broad and Church, the library is going to do a planetarium. Across from the planetarium, thanks to the penny sales tax passing in 2017, we will be building South Carolina's only city-county joint municipal complex. So if you start doing the math, from First Baptist all the way down to the city-county complex, you're looking at anywhere between 250 and $3 million of investment, all within 3/10 of a mile, all starting at some degree at the same time. So, I think we throw around downtown's transforming. It will. If you literally look at it today and come back 4 years on East Main Street, you will not recognize it. Another thing too, that was a recommendation, was for us to have more multifamily, 81 multifamily units in downtown Spartanburg. We set a goal in that plan to get to 1,000. We've far exceeded 1,000 multifamily units in downtown Spartanburg. And not only that, there's actually 2,600 either in the pipeline, under construction, within 5 miles of the Daniel Morgan statue. So think about how that changes the urban core when you have 4,000 to 5,000 multifamily units in or around downtown. Say 2 people per unit. Let's just say 1 people per unit. That's 5,000 new residents in downtown. That means the wheel of commerce is always spinning downtown Spartanburg. I'm going to blow through this real quick. This is a page right out of the Upstate Business Journal. They're covering the Upstate now. Not about that. This is where the freight yard is, right here. This is the other side of the freight yard. This is the Andrew Babb, John Balknight project I was just talking about. Really cool little story about this building right here. These windows are pretty strange, right? They're very linear, they're long. When they built this building, it's actually 111 East Main Street, 111. So pretty neat. This is a 50 square foot office project. Actually was talked about at City Council last night. This is going to be Jay Blanton, is developer out of Charlotte, rooftop restaurant right behind the Chapman Cultural Center. There's another developer out of Greenville, Fletcher, across from Wofford. This will be called the Hub, the Wofford Bookstore, and then multi-purpose uses along the sides, and then behind it will be an open grass area. So you can have outdoor dining at the restaurants. This is the Fitzgerald, this is behind the Piedmont, outside of Spartanburg. And Lat Purser is from Charlotte. So you hear a common theme. We're seeing a lot of external investment come in. The old story about Spartanburg just being run and governed by, and just 3 or 4 families do it. So anybody that tells you that hasn't been here in a while. Lively at Drayton Mill. So this is another multifamily unit across. Townhomes at Midtown Heights, Robert Smalls. This is Island neighborhood. Another office project here across from the Montgomery building. I think the code name Project Spark. That's a John Montgomery project there. We were in desperate. We're at about, even after COVID, we're still at about 90% occupancy when it comes to office. So if we're going to diversify our economic development approach and recruit more office corporate jobs in Spartanburg, we have to have product. If you're in the Montgomery building, it's about 2 parcels over to the right. I'm not exactly sure what's there right now. Across the street. So this is the old Mary H. Wright School on the. This is another John Montgomery project. North Side, if you haven't been to the North Side in a while, I strongly encourage you to do that. What's happening there is special. We literally, Bill Barnett and the North Side, we have somebody over there every quarter from all over the country to see how that part of our city can revitalize with no gentrification. And then the front well is a cool spot right off the Mary Black well, as governor likes to tell the same jokes over and over again. I get to see him speak live. But one of the jokes he says is, he says that he was sitting with his wife and he had the opportunity introduce Donald. Looked at his wife and he said, Peggy, and your wife, Donald Trump, to be the next president of the United States? Dreams, and you ain't been. If you'd have told me 5 years ago that in my on Clifton Beach in District 3, I would say you're crazy. This is happening. This is another market group project, developer. Seeing here's the Pacolet River. I think 90 will have a river view. As well. Really cool restaurant concept. And the re-nourish Clifton Beach and then convey it back to the for the county to maintain and upkeep. And has not seen in a really long time. And I can tell you, this one are all of a sudden hot. So another thing was for us to invest in cultural amenities, placemaking type amenities. City, we did the cultural center, we did the crosswalks. Weekends, you see these play all over downtown. We like to play it off like it's organic. We pay them. So it's like Disney World. It's all propped up. Center actually books the acts, and then we cover all the payroll. But again, just being vibrant downtown. Okay, this is a hot topic. So recommendation 3.4 was to reimagine Morgan Square, refreshed urban design and programming. Economic impact study around what Morgan Square could be, what kind of economic activity it could drive. And did a lot of studying. We did a lot of visiting other communities, but there just wasn't an appetite to change that part of downtown. Then COVID happened and the restaurants in downtown needed more outdoor dining. First community wanted to close Main Street to vehicles. The data speaks for itself. Pedestrian traffic has gone through the roof, not just at Morgan Square, but all outlying areas around. All of a sudden, a recommendation that we put forward in 2017, people have been saying, there may have been something to that. We could better activate Morgan Square. So I'm happy to announce on September 1st, the Redevelopment Morgan Square Committee will have their first meeting. That really want to hear from the community around what we can do to better activate Morgan Square. The fact of the matter is, it's the most valuable piece of real estate. It's only programmed about 29% of opportunity there to use it, leverage it, program it correctly. And let me, real quick, when I say strategically program, let me tell you a story in Fort Dance Square. Now, is that shade? We want shade. I mean, it's Spartanburg, South Carolina. No one's going to come if we don't have any shade. But anyway, so the manager of Sundance Square is sitting in. He has a visit from some folks that work for Bruno Mars. Bruno Mars, you know, famous musician, so on and so forth. They said, Bruno Mars is national tour. And we the second Saturday in May, and he looked right at him and said, they said, what are you talking about? He will probably bring 10 to 12,000 people to the center of Fort Worth. Why would you say no? He said, let me tell you, food and beverage, the second retail crushes it second Saturday in May. I don't need Bruno Mars. I want Bruno Mars the second Saturday in January. The weather's bad. Everybody's credit cards maxed out. Nobody's be back at work after Christmas. That's when I want Bruno Mars to come to Sundance. Let's work on that. They made it happen. Mars played in Sundance Square, the second highest performing weekend. Retail, food and beverage is strategic programming. Every city Friday. Guess what's going to happen next week? Music Thursday, music on Friday. And I'm not throwing shade. I'm just saying strategic programming. That space as taxpayers, it ought to perform. We'll go to the next one. I get fired up. Another recommendation was for us to improve our gateways and corridors. A lot of work needs to be done there. And Smith, who was our chief economic development officer, he retired and now he's a consultant for us. He used to say, when I would bring a prospect in through town, we would certain spot and I would tell so they could go like this while we were driving through the corridor. What you're seeing right here is West Main Street. So literally just right there. Is that right? Right there. One of these people that could be in the building and just press to the point to the north or point to the south. So right there. We were fortunate enough through our lobbying activities. We hired a lobbyist thanks to this plan. And in the last legislative session, we secured $4.5 million to improve West Main Street. And this is a concept of what that will look like for. We have so much interest. Looks is not spurring any kind of competence. So we got a lot of work. Put signage, partner with the Noble Tree Foundation, the county, the hospital. This is sign 14. If you don't see this sign, you probably should not be driving. It's huge. There's one on I-26, two parts of I-26, one out Westgate Mall and then one on the side of Landers. A lot of work to be done with our gateways and corridors. Because in COVID, the Department of Corrections was not using prisoner labor trash anymore because they couldn't get in the van. So we launched Keep One Spartanburg Beautiful, which is a Keep America Beautiful approach, a staffed approach, a data-driven approach to litter collection. Our trail system is so important. We partner with Caine, we partner with PAL. We $23.4 million grant to bring more continuity to our trail system. Roads being torn up around here, those are bring more continuity. Big news coming as far as this is concerned too, and I'll get that in a moment when I talk about the next 5 years. Whoa. Access to Blueways. So we have Henry Rivers, we've got Lake Bowen, Lake Blaylock, and the plan said you just don't have a lot of access to them. So we partnered with Duke Energy, and now there's 4 in point. So the plan came back, and the 3,100 people that took part in the plan process said things to improve our image. Well, that's, how do you measure that? So we did a perception study. A majority of the people perception of Spartanburg or perception of Spartanburg. And so that was our baseline, our benchmark. And so for the first time in our community's history, we were able to invest significant dollars around PR. We'll invest right now. Every single morning around 7 a.m., just has 4 articles about the cultural vibrancy of Spartanburg. Things to do, things to experience. And it seems like every day things to eat in Spartanburg. InTheBurg864.com, InTheBurg864.com, and you can sign. But it has done a really good job of marketing the fact that there's a lot to offer here in Spartanburg. Communities make these lists all the time, right? And I think most folks think that maybe some in a cubicle in New York and said, today in our article about XYZ or list. That's not how it works. Continuously feeding content to folks, and then they decide whether or not they want to. We are now, and as a result of it, you see the national accolades that have come because of our strategic PR efforts. The other thing too is we were not being covered in publications. We weren't being covered. Not an opinion, a fact. Did a audit, audit of the Upstate Business Journal back in 2017. 83% of the content was Greenville. So we said, you know what? Shame on us, because we're not doing a good enough job of providing them content. Last 5 years, 938 stories have been placed in regional business publications and publications. And let me tell you, that's not about yay Spartanburg and bragging on ourselves. Mark Peters' group reached out to us and said, I've been reading, come over and have a drink and learn more. And it's just history. So it matters. Number one issue, still number one issue today. So we certainly saw lack of talent, a lack of qualified workers in the construction industry. We partnered with the city to launch this program. Remarkable is it's the first community college, technical college in South Carolina to offer free tuition. So higher ed enrollment is going down across the nation. At Spartanburg Community College, it's up 32%. 64% of those people that are coming to Spartanburg Community College are also 24 years and older. So it's somebody that started something and didn't finish it. And so we're going to talk about that in a moment. How am I on time? Okay, great. We are not, you all know this. You see this, you feel this every day. 46 people moving to the upstate. Our part of on how you look at it is 17, 18 people every single day moving to Spartanburg. We're not taking credit for all this population growth. However, we have had a strategic campaign called See Yourself in Spartanburg. And so as a web presence, billboard presence, I'll speak to that in a moment. But what's important is this 10,429 number. So we've fed little 20-second ads in strategic markets that have the kind of people that we need to fill the kind of jobs that we have in Spartanburg. They've clicked on the ad, they've gone to the website, but more importantly, they've gone to the job board. Want to see. So that's a big external campaign. We've also launched an intra-regional campaign. Our number one by far in-migration county right now is Greenville. 7,012 people over the past 5 years left Greenville and moved to Spartanburg County. The number two in-migration county is Henderson County, and it's 529 people. So it's not even close. So we've done some things in Greenville County to play to that data, not be cheeky, not be competitive or anti-regional or any of that, just playing to the data. So there's a billboard out on I-85 that says, ditch the commute, see yourself in Spartanburg. So we're going to continue to play that data if the trend continues to go that way. So from an economic development standpoint, one of the recommendations was obviously prioritize employment growth, per capita income. Our peer communities throughout both these studies were in employment growth, and then a 2.7% increase in wage. First yawned. The fact that we've gotten to a point now where we can prioritize quality over quantity. You know, it used to be that folks would come to county council or city council and they would need help. And we would say, county council has shifted and and $12, $13 an hour, it's America. You can come, but you're not going to get any incentives from local government. That has been part of the reason why our wage increase has been what it has been. This won't surprise. Impressive. Okay. I talked so much I wore out. So this is employment growth in the housing sector, and you're going to continue to see this growth. When people were at home, with COVID, you know, they got a lot more comfortable ordering online. I mean, my grandparents, they think it's the best thing ever. Now, sometimes instead of getting 5 bananas, they get 5 pounds of bananas, but that's okay. They're figuring it out. The other thing that we were able to do is market Spartanburg as an economic development destination too, a destination for investment. So a strategic campaign over the past 5 years was launched there. More diversification of our economic development approach. This is Epica International, a company we recruited out of Texas. They do the high-end final finish polishing for Ferrari and Lamborghini. They also have a patent out right now for a mobile CAT scan device. 2 corporate headquarters landed last year in downtown Spartanburg. 3 years ago, we really got strategic about trying to do a better job of recruiting headquarters at downtown Spartanburg, and these were our first 2 wins. MP Cloud Technologies and Agape Care Group. Over the next 2 to 3 years, 326 white-collar jobs moving to downtown Spartanburg. So this is the result of our economic development effort over the past 5 years. Last year alone was 1.9 billion, 4,045 new jobs. To put that number in perspective, the 10-county region of the upstate last year recruited 2.4 billion and 1.9 was Spartanburg. The 10-county region recruited here 8,100 new jobs, 4,045 was Spartanburg. Last year, the 10-county region recruited 85 new projects, 44 was Spartanburg County. So that puts those numbers in context. 25 cents of every single dollar invested in South Carolina was derived from Spartanburg County projects last year. So that's the last 5 years. We'll now look forward to the next 5 years in the forming of Vision Plan 2.0. So this was the process. I won't go too deep into it. We had a 49-person steering committee. The great thing about Broad Ripple Strategies, the group that helped us, is a lot of companies will get you to this and then they leave. Broad Ripple says, you got your plan, you've got all the data, and here's how you're going to drive action. Even with a budget, with staff recommendations, timelines, everything. We had 3 tri-chairs, Bruce Holstein, the CEO of Spartanburg Regional Healthcare System. Let me tell you, Bruce too is a man of his word. He said at the very beginning, he said, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not going to come to any meetings. I might come to one, but at the end, I'll write a big check. Well, guess what? 6 months later, he didn't come to a single meeting, but he wrote us a big check. So he was a man of his word. Ozzy, the CEO of Milliken, absolutely transforming Milliken in terms of how Milliken interacts with Spartanburg. Milliken was quite withdrawn for a long time. Now Milliken is completely external facing. Thanks to Halsey's leadership. And of course, Jordy Johnson, the CEO of Johnson Development Group, was a part of the process as well. After the 6-month process, we had 15 key initiatives fell under these 6 overarching principles that we came up as a steering committee with. Make sure you get that, okay? So I'm going to give you the data justification around the economic development recommendations very quickly. So knowledge-based over the past 5 years grew. They grew exponentially. However, our knowledge-based sectors are still not what they need to be in Spartanburg County. And by the way, one of the things I love about Spartanburg is we're really upfront and honest about our challenges. There are a lot of folks who have my job, and this took some getting used to. I'm supposed to be the chief cheerleader. Everything's great. You know, everybody makes $100,000, no crime. Everybody has a 4-year degree. Everything's perfect. But Spartanburg is not like that. The only way you're ever going to acknowledge your issues or change your issues is to acknowledge them. And so that's what this process is all about. So in Spartanburg, we have no problem whatsoever talking about our problems and our challenges. And so you're going to hear some of that. But the good thing is there are some solutions. Another thing that was disturbing over the past 5 years is we saw small business composition just begin to contract a little, not a lot, but we don't want to see red. We want to see black. So we're going to be launching a small and minority business development strategic plan. Actually, over the week, we have somebody hired. He accepted somebody that's going to run our 12-step plan to drive this number back up. Another disturbing number in this was Black-owned business was 30% less than the national average, 30%. So we got to be intentional about that. We just can't say we're going to focus on small businesses. We're going to have to be intentional about focusing on minority business ownership as well if we want to see these metrics go up. So here are the key recommendations over the next 5 years. Some of these are new. Some of them are carry forwards from the past 5 years. From a talent standpoint, so right now we have 1.4 jobs for every single person in Spartanburg County. We have more jobs than people to fill those jobs. We could all get on a bus and we could go visit 10 companies right now. And whether they have 5 employees or 5,000, whether they're in hospitality or a corporate outfit, they would all tell you their number one challenge is people, finding people. And so talent is going to continue to be a priority of ours moving forward. Another thing too is qualified talent. So one of our biggest challenges in Spartanburg is our 4-year degree obtainment rate. So as of today, that number is about 27%, and you see where our peer communities are. One of the reasons why that is what it is because historically, we've been among the best in the nation at recruiting jobs that don't require a 4-year degree. Think about manufacturing, distribution, and logistics. We've been among the best. You saw the percentages. And so we have to really get intentional about moving that metric up. And I'll give you one big reason why. You've heard me say, we want to get more active in the knowledge-based sector. We want to recruit office jobs. We want to recruit healthcare jobs, so on and so forth. What kind of degree do those jobs require? 4-year degree, most of them at a minimum. So you're taking the Spartanburg product to the market, and the first question you're getting is, tell us about your labor pool. Well, 73% of our people wouldn't be qualified for the jobs that you'd be bringing to Spartanburg. And so we're overcoming that with other, I guess, with other tricks. but this is something that we need to work on. It's not all about 4-year degrees either. I mean, that's not the panacea. We need more 2-year degrees. We need more credentials. We need more education, period. And we've got a great opportunity. Great question. And so the question we always have 7 colleges in Spartanburg County, about 16,000 college students. Why is our number low? Well, we haven't done a good job of retaining them. You're right. And I think part of that is there's people were graduating from college and there was nothing here for them to go and work for a job. You know, with a 4-year degree or an advanced degree, and that's my whole point. There were not that many opportunities, but we're seeing that change. The other thing is just the amenities. I mean, just think about if you did find a job in Spartanburg, where would you live 5 years ago? And, you know, that's beginning to change. But just like the guy from Indianapolis told us when he was in our office a few months ago, he said, y'all don't have enough housing. You don't have it. And let me say, I go to Rotary Club, Kiwanis Club, Sertona Club, Garden Club. By the way, the Garden Club doesn't garden. They drink wine. I figured that out. They hadn't gardened in 36 years. I go to any of those clubs and talk, and a local person at the end of it will say, I can guess it. How are we going to fill apartments and houses? But I'm telling you, people outside the market and people like you, the demographics are crazy. We have no idea the population growth that's headed our way. And so that was a long way to say there was no housing. That's getting a little bit better. There weren't that many opportunities for them back then. And quite frankly, there's not many amenities. I mean, downtown 10, 15 years ago is not what it is today. So we're seeing, literally, we're seeing younger people stay at a higher rate, but we got some catching up to do. Another way in which I think we can catch up is, let me pause real quick, talk about population growth. I know that's important to you all. Over the past 10 years, 43,000 people have moved here. That's like adding a new city of Spartanburg and a new Inman to Spartanburg County's population growth. Here's the other thing that makes me very bullish about all this residential development. Gallup does a poll every single year and they ask people, what are the top 2 things that you're looking at if you were considering a move? And 1 and 2 change places, but they're generally the same. Job availability and affordability. Well, 7 weeks ago, we were nationally ranked in the top 10 in both of those categories, affordability and job availability. So I feel very, very confident about our population growth moving forward. Speaking of population growth, here's an opportunity for us to rapidly change degree obtainment. 36% of the people that moved here in the past 5 years have come with some college. So life happened. They started a degree, they didn't finish. Maybe they had to care for an ailing loved one. Maybe they had children. Maybe they just started working, but they could be 6, 9, 12, 15, 18 credit hours away from finishing a degree. They could get that in 6 months. They could get that in a year, which is why we're partnering with Sam. And you're going to hear next 6 to 8 months something about unfinished business. And that's going to be an intentional effort for us to get our arms around those 48,000 people in Spartanburg County that have started an educational pursuit and haven't finished it. And that, I think, is the quickest way we're going to start driving up 4-year degree obtainment. This is a big issue too. So this is prime age labor force participation rate. So it's 25 to 54. But if you look at 18 to 65, it is 59%, which means 4 of 10 people are not working. 4 in 10 people in Spartanburg County are not working. So it's very easy to say, well, they're sitting on a couch, video games, and, you know, yeah, okay. There's a certain percentage of people that will always do that. But the data told us, and the feedback told us, that childcare and transportation are 2 of the biggest barriers for people not going back to work after COVID. And so we got a lot of work to do. Childcare, I'll give you a startling statistic when it comes to childcare. I'm gonna get this right. There are 15.7 childcare workers for every 1,000 kids under the age of 10 in Spartanburg County. So you play that math. I mean, I have 2. I can't even take care of 2. I can't imagine, you know, how does that play out? You got almost 100 that you would be responsible for. So childcare is a very complex issue. We need more childcare workers. There's plenty of demand. It needs to be more affordable. So stay tuned on that one. We're in partnership with the United Way on that particular issue. So from a talent standpoint, you can see what we're going to be working on the next 5 years. 8 weeks ago, we hired a chief talent officer, someone that's going to be completely focused on talent development, retention, and attraction. He was the national talent director for the Boys and Girls Club of America in Atlanta. He has moved to Spartanburg to help drive. His job description is this right here, these 5 bubbles. If he can drive some measurable progress on these 5 bubbles, we'll be exactly where we need to be, or at least heading in the right direction. From a place standpoint, we're going to continue to focus on dense downtown development. It's so important for a variety of reasons. I talked about the wheel of commerce, always saying how important it is, more people living downtown. The other thing too is 36% of the land mass in the city of Spartanburg is non-taxable. Churches, colleges, hospital. So you literally have to get the remaining 65% has to perform. Every piece of dirt matters in the city of Spartanburg. So question was about the 16 acres over here behind the AC Hotel. So part of the reason you're seeing some demolition right now is because that was some opportunity zone requirements that they needed to do, but this offers great, great, great promise. I put on my dancing shoes. Yeah. But just be excited. I'll put it that way. A lot of things percolating, a lot of things need to fall in place, but what a prime site in downtown Spartanburg. So quality of place is so important to attracting talent. I gave you the story about the guy from Indianapolis. And so we're going to continue to focus on quality of place. I talked about, go ahead. But that number is interesting. And again, I don't have all the answers. I will tell you this. I'm very proud of the fact that we've hired Nancy Whitworth. And you might not know her, but you know her work. She led economic development for the city of Greenville for 40 years. And so when she retired, we told her, come on over to Spartanburg. And she agreed. And so one of the things that she's been an expert at is saying, look, when we had these opportunities in Greenville, we made this mistake, or we could have done this better. We learned from this, we learned from that. As you all have some of these developments coming out of the ground, don't make the same mistakes. And so one of those is multifamily. So literally, aside from Robert Smalls, because that's subsidized housing anyway, but every single one of those multifamily projects I just showed you have an affordable workforce component. If they didn't, the city would not incent them. So a minimum of 10% of the units have to be 80% AMI. So that $800 would work for some of those complexes. Now, buying, that's a whole nother thing. I know this group cares about buying. But again, we have been more proactive in terms of at least having some of these new units affordable or obtainable. And let me say too, you say affordable and people conjure up in their heads, like, what does that look like? And who would be living beside me? And, you know, these people are bad. Da, 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 da. This is the brand new graduate of USC Upstate that just took a job making $37,000 with a company. I mean, this is not the stigma type stuff that we commonly do in our society. We want firefighters to be able to live in downtown Spartanburg. Wouldn't that be great? So we're trying to be more intentional about that, but that $800 will work. I'll help if she's, I don't know about buying, but we can help rent. And I actually helped somebody a couple of weeks ago, sort of the same situation, same number. So. Social Security and it, right. Great question. So increase housing availability without pricing people out of the market. Again, higher rents is a good thing. I'm not saying it's not, but if we can continue to do, 10 or 15% of the units, and we were told too, oh, if you do that, you will squash multifamily development in Spartanburg. No one will come. The pro formas won't work, and we've proven that to be wrong thus far. Outdoor amenities. So I talked about the trail system. We got another earmark from the General Assembly this year, a $5 million earmark for something called the Saluda Gray Rail Trail. So there is an abandoned rail line, 26.7 miles, that runs from Inman to Tryon. It's the steepest grade in the country. And right now, PAL is in talks with CSX to acquire the property. Again, we've got $5 million to go towards that conversation. If the property is acquired and if the rail is flipped to trail, you could start in Tryon and coast all the way down to Inman. It's the American way. We don't want to pedal, do we? So You could coast all the way down to Inman. There's 8 miles that we need to work on between the Dan, the Spartanburg Trail system. If we could get that going, you could literally go from Tryon all the way to downtown Spartanburg on the southern side. And the northern side, North Carolina is working on connecting the Saluda Gray Rail Trail with the Augusta Trail, which could take you all the way up to Brevard. So it would be 70 to 80 miles. So you could literally start in Brevard and go all the way to downtown Spartanburg. Very exciting opportunity there. We did an economic impact study. Powell did an economic impact study. $46 million potential economic impact in the northern part of the county, which has not seen a lot of investment in a long time. Think residential, think commercial, so on and so forth. We've seen what has happened at Swamp Rabbit Trail, but this is 70 to 80 miles spanning 2 states. So this could be a real differentiator for us. Not only if you started in North Carolina, you'd be a real man if you started in Spartanburg and went up to Brevard. Not yet. Right now, it's been said that the project's going to be $30 million. And so again, we were able to secure a $5 million earmark. We've got great assurances that in this next legislative session, we probably can get another earmark. I think if the state plays, and so we've got a funding path. So yeah, just stay tuned for that. I'll give you a quick driver that's already happened. We were down to 3 communities for a company that a lot of outdoor enthusiasts would know about. And we were down to 3, and this would be an international relocation of office and manufacturing all to Spartanburg. And they were just so attracted to Spartanburg because of the possibility of the Saluda Gray Rail Trail. Project Champion. When we secured the $5 million from the General Assembly, Spartanburg became the community. And so that they are now doing due diligence on some property in the northern part of the county. Everything works out, everything else falls into place. We probably will have an announcement over the next 6 months. So when somebody tells you that trails are just fluff and it's a waste of taxpayer, so on and so forth, that's just not the case. It's what people expect today. It's what people require, and the communities invest in them are the communities that win. So here are our quality of place recommendations over the next 5 years. So the budget for this is $2.3 billion, just like in 2017. We've decided to raise all the money on our own. We're not interested in going to Charlotte, Atlanta, and have someone come into Spartanburg and take 20 cents of every dollar and take it back to their community. So Todd Horn, who can't be here today, by the way, I do a much better job without him. You can just tell him that. He couldn't be here today, but we've taken the show on the road. We've given this same presentation, I think, 52 times since March 15th, and we raised 4.6 million of the 6.3, and you are heavy investors in it. So thank you. And so we will hopefully close the gap before the end of the year. So the next 5 years, we don't have to worry about funding this work. It'll all be taken care of, and we can just get to work and get after it over the next 5 years. And so I'm going to end with this. So this work, it's easy to get caught up in new jobs. It's easy to get caught up in investment numbers, so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, it's about people. And it's about people like Celestine. So in Vision Plan 1.0, the 2017-2021 Vision Plan, there was a recommendation that said, look, Spartanburg County is 813 square miles. You're not going to have a public transportation system to go get somebody in Campobello and take them to a job in downtown Spartanburg. So get innovative as how we can help people that don't have transportation. So we found a program called Commute with Enterprise. We partnered with United Way. We partnered with the city of Spartanburg, first community in South Carolina to engage with enterprise in this manner. Celestine was our first taker. So Celestine gets to drive this vehicle on her personal use, so long as she drives 2 of her coworkers to work. And let me tell you what's important about this. Celestine, prior to having this arrangement, Ubered to and from her manufacturing job every single day. And the two people that she took to work walked. This is life-changing in terms of the time that they have with their families now, the real reliability of transportation, getting them work on time. And here's even the better part of the story. She has done so well, she now has a full van and she's driving 7 people to work every single day. That's what it's all about. It's about people and it's about improving their lives. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions. So I think if somebody has a lot of money, I would be trying to build. Y'all tell me. I'll just ask you. You tell me. If you wanted a high-end single family or multifamily condo type unit for sale, I mean to buy in downtown Spartanburg, what would you buy? No, I'm saying existing product. There's nothing. There's nothing. They're the 6. Yeah, what would you buy? Like you can't, if you're in that market, if you were to come to this market and say, I want to buy downtown, there's nothing. And that I think that's why Mark Peters has said, I'm going to do 6 condos at $600 a square foot for sale just for the shell. So there's that. I don't know that. I don't know that yet. And I think he's still working all that out. But an amenity like a dedicated elevator. I mean, you literally could go on the East Main Street, press a button, be like the movies, open up, walk in your living room. For $600 a square foot, it ought to have that. But that product just doesn't exist. Library Commons, I think, had 1 or 2 units for sale. But aside from that, it doesn't exist. And then if you expand the circle out a little bit more, and you just say new residential product in the city of Spartanburg, what do you got? You got Carrington, Silver Hill, right? Yeah. So it's limited. Now we are starting to see actually 2 higher end executive type builders express some interest in maybe not in the city, but so that's a good sign. But yep. Yes. 3 years ago, our corporate development strategy told us that if we wanted to recruit, corporate knowledge-based health science jobs, we needed to raise degree attainment. We need more direct flights out of GSP, and we need more executive housing across the board. I can't speak to that. I will tell you, I was with the superintendents last week, and they just blistered me because it's a little complicated, but so 10.5% is the tax rate for companies that are coming in, which is not competitive at all. I mean, I think North Carolina is at 6 and Georgia's at 5. So what we have is enabling legislation to offer what's called a fee in lieu of tax agreement. So we can do a 6% fee in lieu of tax. And so if it's a good company and they're in the multi-county industrial park, we use that tool all the time. Well, the schools hate it because they would rather want the 10.5% instead of the 6%. But what I like to tell superintendents is, y'all are educators, is 6% higher than 0%. Like if we can't use this tool, we're just not even competitive. But they have a point. Act 388 was basically they were getting revenue from property taxes, the school system. So now with all this population growth, they're being expected to serve so many more people, but then they're not getting any cut of the property tax revenues. So it is a statewide issue in terms of those lines are going in the wrong direction. So are there plans to invest in District 7 schools? Well, the referendum was passed, 4 or 5 years ago. So that I just can't see them passing a new referendum anytime soon. I mean, I would be a big proponent of investing in education. And District 4 just approved a referendum, $100 million new high school. District 2's passed one. District 3's failed. District 4 passed. District 5 passed. District 7 passed. And they all add up to about $1 billion in new educational facilities. intheberg864.com. intheberg864.com. And let me mention one thing I think you guys will like. So our Chief Talent Officer, Jeremy Vince, he came here, and one of the first things that he is going to launch, and will probably launch next week, is you may have read about Tulsa, Oklahoma and Topeka, Kansas. They're paying like people $10,000 to move to their communities. Pretty cool. But we dug a little deeper in both of those communities and found out that, you don't get a lot of bang for your buck when you're throwing out $10,000 per person. So when he got here, he said, you know what? I think we can have the same impact, have a greater impact, and spend a lot less money. So we're working now with our 3 largest employers, and they all have in-house recruiters. And so what's the recruiter's job? The recruiter's job is to fill the job for Milliken, fill the job for Spartanburg Regional, so on and so forth. They don't care where they live. They're just trying to fill the job. So our goal is to try to help them fill the job, but we have another goal too, and that is to make sure they live in Spartanburg County. So next week, all 4 companies have agreed to this. We're going to start bonusing recruiters. So when a recruiter lands a person and that person lives in Spartanburg County, the recruiter will get a bonus paid from us, and they will have stretch goals. So over the course of a year, if you land 25, a lump sum bonus of X. If you land 30, you get a lump sum bonus of Y. And so that way, I think we can drive much more impact and spend a lot less money. So tomorrow night, we are going to force Spartanburg down their throat, whether they like it or not. They're going to start at the AC Hotel. We're going to do a full-blown presentation about what's happening. They're going to then walk to the freight yard. So I think 50% of the recruiters do live in Spartanburg, but the ones that don't will know about Spartanburg moving forward. And we're actually going to create an email content for them too. Aside from intheberg864.com, we're continuously feeding them things about Spartanburg. So it's not just a one and done. But I mean, this is big money for them. We've been told that some of these recruiters make, $60,000, $65,000 a year. If you're getting an incentive of $500 per person, you make sure you live in Spartanburg County. If you land 6, that's a 10% bonus above and beyond what your employer might pay. So even there are 2,000 people every day that commute from Lexington and Richland counties. That blew my mind. So So, and what companies have begun to realize, especially with COVID, is what kind of quality of life is that? I mean, honestly, and if you love the job, you're going to get burnt out about the commute sooner or later. And you hear people say things like, well, it's only 30 minutes. Annualize that. That's an hour a day. That's 20 hours a month. I mean, I'd rather spend time with my family. I hope they like to spend it with me. I'm not sure, but I would rather spend that time with my family. And so I think that tide is beginning to change in a major, major way. Oh, that's great. That's great. Any other questions? Well, I started with perspective and I'll end on perspective. My perspective on Spartanburg is bullish. I think we should all be bullish about Spartanburg because I think what we've seen over the past 5 years has been remarkable. Coming is going to be a sight to behold. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Alan. As always, that is just a tremendous amount of information to digest. I'm glad we recorded it because I will definitely go back and watch it again. It's just tremendous. Thank you for all that you've done for our community. I just don't know where we would be if you hadn't come this way. So we certainly appreciate it. And we appreciate you always sharing with us and being very transparent with us. It's very helpful. So thank you.